small choices made by, one school can have potentially huge impact. All of the children, if they learn to make compassionate decision-making skills and using empathy, then I think that can be carried on. And I mean, countless lives could be saved just by that one person that uses something like this.
I think it's just reiterating that one person can make a difference, and the more people that adapt it, the more normalized it becomes. So, taking a chance, putting yourself out there, trying this curriculum, trying something different can have that ripple effect that, can impact so many different people and animals' lives.
Welcome to the Better Life for Animals podcast, where we amplify the voices of animal advocates, sanctuaries, and changemakers working toward a kinder, more compassionate world. Through powerful stories and expert insights, we shine a light on the efforts to rescue, protect, and advocate for animals. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're watching or listening. Every follower helps us reach more people and support animal sanctuaries. Enjoy the conversation.
Our guests are Kris Taylor and Elizabeth Wallace, the compassionate forces helping to guide this work at Shy 38. At Shy 38, Kris, Elizabeth, and the team provide lifelong care for rescued animals while also educating visitors about who those animals are as individuals, not units or products. Their mission is rooted in empathy, connection, and creating a more compassionate world for all beings. As a lifelong vegetarian and vegan for over a decade, Elizabeth began working with Shy 38 in the spring of 2022 and brings her background as a licensed teacher and senior training developer to bridge the gap between helping animals and teaching people. In this conversation, we'll talk about how Shy 38 began, what sanctuary life really looks and feels like, and how encounters with animals can transform the way we move through the world. If you've ever wondered what goes into building a place where animals can finally exhale and heal, you're in the right place. Kris and Elizabeth, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kris, for listeners who are just hearing about Shy 38, can you share a story about how the sanctuary began and what moved you to make this first step?
Sure. So in around 2013, my family we rented a house in a rural area, and we lived next door to a farmer's herd of cattle. My kids were small then. Kids love animals. So we started watching the cows. There was probably 30 of them, moms and babies in the field. We'd watch their interactions with each other, saw that they form friendships. They love their babies. We watched them get their babies taken away every fall. And then we watched them grieve and call out for their babies. Not really that much different than any other species, mom and baby relationship. And we gave them names. The kids fed them apples. Just like dogs, they learned their names. They'd return. Some of them would return year after year. They'd remember their names even while they were the months that they were gone. And we realized that they're not unlike the pets that we share our homes and our lives with. They're thinking, feeling individuals. And so starting to think about that led me to start looking into more of where our food comes from. And then that led me to start looking for, well, are there any farm animal rescues in the area? Well, of course there weren't. Rural Kansas, there's no farm rescues, no places where people could come and see the lives of cows for who they are and meet them and interact. And so Shy 38 was born from that. One of the cows in the neighboring field just had the ear tag. She was just known to the farmer as number 38. But she was also an individual. So she was the shy one, never really warmed up to us, never really came and got snacks, but she'd always kind of hang in the back and be very curious and watch. But that's where it ended. So she is our namesake. I'm sure she's gone now. It's a lot of years ago. And so that's how that started. So then I moved into, well, I'm going to research how to do this. I was vegetarian then, but from that moment on, I went vegan immediately. I learned where, the dairy industry is horrible. And so I learned all about that and gave up everything and immediately started just researching how to start a nonprofit and went from there.
Elizabeth, what drew you to the mission when you joined in 2022?
Great question. So I had heard about Shy 38. I lived in Lawrence at the time. So, it's the only animal sanctuary, and I was lucky enough to get to live there. So I had come out a couple times to volunteer, meet the animals, started talking with Kris, and she found out about my education background. She was looking to start at the time a children's summer camp, which we're working to hopefully get off the ground soon, and asked if I was interested in helping. Through that work, we kind of found a more immediate need with chicken hatching in classrooms. A lot of the chickens and roosters that they have at Shy 38 have come from classroom hatching projects around the area. And that was a place where I felt like, I work a full-time job. I can't always get out to the farm to volunteer, but I want to be able to help and contribute. So I felt like my unique skill set could help contribute to something that would have a direct impact in our community and hopefully more abroad.
Can you talk about the hatching chicken eggs in classrooms and why that doesn't work and what the better answer to that would be?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a pretty common experiment or project. It's a little less common now, as people are maybe getting a little bit more aware of things, but it's still pretty prevalent and it goes on. Some of the drawbacks, so I was a teacher. I know all about working on your weekends. So, you have to come in, you have to check on the chicks, you have to make sure they're doing okay, you have to keep an eye on them. So it is a lot of extra work. But also in the incubator, they're not, so the chicken, the mother hen sits on them. She turns them all the time. She moves them constantly. She keeps them warm. She talks with them. You can't replicate that in an incubator. So, as they're starting to hatch, then that can come with, development delays. The chicks might not make it because they weren't rotated correctly or hatched correctly. And then after they're hatched, what do you do with them? So in the city, you can't have roosters. And Shy 38 is the only animal sanctuary, and they're full. So it's more of that preventative. How can we address this problem and still give children a super interactive and immersive experience, something that they'll remember, something that they can learn about life cycles, but something that is more ethical.
Well, let's talk about Shy 38. Where is it at? How big is it? How many animals do you house? And also, what's the day-to-day look like for both of you?
So I don't know if I can answer those questions. Those are going to be Kris questions. I talk about the curriculum.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, so we are located just rural Lawrence, Kansas. And day to day is a lot of work. We are home to roughly 200 animals, cows, horses, pigs, a lot of birds. Most of those are birds. We do have almost 90 roosters here that are we provide a permanent home for. A lot of times it's just me, and I know that I'm speaking for a lot of sanctuaries out there. Volunteers are hard to come by sometimes, and it's a lot of just feeding and cleaning and watering and hoping there's no emergency that day to where you have to rush off to a veterinarian, which happens often. The animals come from all walks of life, all different backgrounds. Some come from very bad places, and they've got underlying problems that arise. And so every day is the same, but then a little different. So there's always surprises and worry, and unfortunately, fortunately, they're allowed to grow old, but they do also pass. So it can be very sad days as well.
One of the things that I appreciate about this conversation is that I know you're outdoors, Kris, and the sound might not be all the best, but that's because you're actually doing the work. You're out there, your boots on the ground, you are out there with the animals, and this is what it actually looks like. So
right.
I will direct my next question to you, Elizabeth. So let's talk about what programs you've started and what your hopes are with regard to curriculum and summer camps, because we all know that it's the children that we want to bring into this information and teach them about compassion.
Absolutely. I think the main idea is just to start to plot that seed of thinking. You know, what are their choices? What widespread impacts do they have? While still, again, giving them something that's fun and engaging and memorable. So the curriculum that we worked to develop is a 3-week curriculum. It is, I like to joke, it's the path of least resistance, right? You don't have to check on anything. You don't have to set anything up. You literally, you download the curriculum, you reach out to the Science Bank, you order the kit, and you get started. It's about as easy as we can make it. It's the standards aligned, there's scripting in it, and we provide all of the resources that you need to really be able to pick this curriculum up from anywhere and teach it. So it's about 3 weeks, like I said, about twice a week. They have a bunch of different interactive components with a final project of making a mini book of the life cycle of chicks. So it's pretty cute, it's hands-on, it's engaging. We have a couple different really cool things that we have in the kit from the Science Bank. So one of them is it's like a model of an egg, and you get to open up. Oh, Kris has it. Perfect. Yep. If you want to hold it up. So you get to open up the egg, and you can see on any given day, days 1 through 21, what's going on inside of the egg, what the chick looks like, which you can't do with a real egg. Yeah. So there's Kris holding it up for you. And on the very last day, Kris, I don't know if you have that one handy, but on the very last day when you open it up, you get a cute little chick that comes out, which is so cute. We also have a book that was donated to us called A Home for Henny. We have an app called Chick It Out, which is free to use. It's an interactive model. There's Kris holding up the little baby chick. It's an interactive iPad or tablet. It's an interactive app. That's the word I'm looking for. It's an interactive app that you can download, and you can manipulate and move around a chicken. You can manipulate and move around a hen. You can manipulate and move around an egg. You can dig inside and see, and it has some of those terms with it. Again, using all of these resources, we also have a couple posters that we give that illustrate the life cycle. When we talk about hatching chicks, the egg is just one part of the life cycle. So a traditional egg hatching experiment doesn't even really get to all of the stages. It's just one part of the chicken life cycle. So we go a little bit more in depth. We cover the whole life cycle. And by the end, you get to create a really cute mini book that's folded up that they can take home and hopefully remember what they learned.
How do children react to knowing this? How do they get to learn about the harsh realities of what happens in a typical factory farm, or do we leave that off and just talk about what a healthy, happy chicken's life looks like?
So I tried to keep it a little bit more, anyone could pick this up. It's starting with that introductory of, I want to do something different. I want to do something, whether it's easier, whether it's more ethical, whether it's better for the environment, whatever the angle is, I wanted it to be something that anyone would be comfortable picking up and having a conversation about. How I might teach it might be a little bit different than how someone else might teach it, and that's okay. But I didn't specifically script that in there. However, the book A Home for Henny does cover a little bit more about that at an age-appropriate way. So they dip their toes into it, but they don't go super hard into it. So it's still kid-friendly no matter where you're from.
You're listening to Better Life for Animals podcast. Our mission is to amplify the voices of animal advocates, sanctuaries, and changemakers working toward a kinder, more compassionate world. But we can't do it alone. We need your help. First of all, go ahead and subscribe to this channel wherever you're watching or listening. And then get involved by visiting betterlifeforanimals.com. That's betterlifeforanimals.com. Be sure to check out our blog, learn more about incredible sanctuaries, and explore our book section, where 100% of net proceeds from book sales are donated to sanctuaries. Every action you take helps to make a difference. And remember, subscribe to this channel. And now, back to the show.
If you're just joining us, we're speaking with Kris Taylor and Elizabeth Wallace at Shy 38. So I love what you're doing because I absolutely know that sanctuaries are where we're going to learn about animals that we're misusing in our system on their own terms, where they get a chance to be themselves. And, more and more these animals are removed from us, so we don't even get to see them or know who they are. Like you were saying, Kris, by living next door to them, you get to see how they suffer, how they miss their babies. It's so tragic. And I also love how you're working with, youth, because it just is so imperative that children learn about the realities of their food system so that they don't have to participate in it, because they're the ones, I believe, that are going to make the change, because they could do it right now if they wanted to. If they say, I'm not eating that, which children are known to do, right? Then we have to make different choices. So I'm wondering, with all the amazing work that both of you are doing, if each of you might have a favorite story, a story where you really saw a change in the hearts and the mind or of a person, or even your favorite animal, because we love to hear stories that, connect with that compassion.
He's actually on my shirt. He's the official ambassador rooster for the Hatching Kindness Project. His name is Walter. And I love it when people visit us and they get to see the roosters, because roosters are probably the most unwanted animal that we get requests for. Like Elizabeth said, they're not allowed in town. So they're often abandoned. They're dumped in parks. And they don't survive when they're abandoned. They're taken to shelters. Animal sanctuaries are full. 90 of those boys live here, and we're beyond full at that point. But when people come and visit, they get to meet them. So no, they're not all mean. They don't all come after you. Everybody has that one memory or experience where I remember that rooster. He used to, chase me, or I was chased as a kid. And well, here they're really allowed to just be themselves, so you can see their individual personalities. Walter is very friendly. He doesn't mind being picked up. He doesn't mind human interaction. He loves his girls, and he has never, harmed anyone. And everybody here has a story. So people come out and they see that, and you can just see their thought processes that go along with that, and it's wonderful. If I can let everybody know how amazing the little feathery creatures are, that's what I try to do. So that's my story. I don't know if you can see it, but it's Walt.
Yeah, I have mine on too. Yeah, the camera's
you do? Nice.
Yeah. We got our Walter shirts on. Yeah.
Yes. So.
And so for me, I'm thinking through, and I've definitely had moments, I had a student who at 6 years old is like, didn't realize that it was an option. She already didn't eat, she loved pigs. She already didn't eat pork products or any pig products, but she didn't realize it was an option not to eat meat until she met me. So, I've had some moments like that, but I think the biggest one that stands out is specifically when we started doing this work. We were in an interview for PBS a couple weeks ago, and, Kris and I are kind of talking about, how much into veganism are we going to get into? I don't know. And by the end of it, the hosts were like, well, I'm really rethinking this. I don't know that I'll ever eat eggs again. And I was like, I've reached the kids, and it's such an amazing moment every time, but to have that impact on grownups too, I just was blown away. So it's amazing to see that this has a farther reaching impact than maybe even we originally anticipated. So.
Well, one thing we all know about sanctuaries is that there is never enough funding. And I'm wondering how you sustain yourselves and what fundraising methods you like to use. And I think I might know about a couple of them because you shared them, but I'd love to hear how that's going. And also we want to be absolutely sure to share that so that we can perhaps, our listeners can also perhaps purchase this book and participate, because I love what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for doing that. We have reached a point where we tried to purchase the open space next to the property, but we unfortunately are no longer able to do that. So someone else bought the property and they're living there now. So we're kind of in our own stuck space here. So we tried to do the Kickstarter and incorporate that with the book that's been written. Barney Finds a Friend. He was one of our first residents here. He was a special needs cow. We will still bring that book to life. It's just going to take a little bit longer. Now we've started a GoFundMe to work on our plan B. So we're going to have to kind of restructure our space. since we cannot relocate. So we're going to be moving the pigs to a wooded area that we have, which will actually be amazing for them because of all the rooting space that they can do. There's a pond down there. There's built-in shade. And then it will allow us to rework the land and make more grazing space for our cows, which is what we desperately need. So our GoFundMe is live. We also have PayPal and Venmo and all of the typical, donation apps as well. As far as other fundraising, it feels like, and I'm sure everyone feels this way, it feels like you're always doing it, but you have to. We're not government or city funded or anything like that. So we run 100% on donations. We apply for grants. That's always, most grants are no's. Occasionally you might get a small project-based grant. And then we do other little fundraising, rely a lot on social media, unfortunately, but that's how it works.
Do you have a recurring donation base? Do you have some loyal community followers who step in?
We do. We have our Sanctuary Sustainers program, and it's a $20 a month recurring donation that people can join, and that helps us be able to pay for basic expenses like food and water and straw, hay, stuff like that.
Elizabeth, how do you see the summer going? Have you started to get people signed up? How many courses will you be offering? Do you charge for this?
A great question. No, so this is completely free. That was, again, path of least resistance, right? Teachers are always supporting their own classrooms. And I was really adamant that if we're going to do this, we got to make sure that it's something that there's no charge to it. There's no extra work to it. So no, completely free. And this is, the spring is where we would probably start to see some of that interest. And I bet Kris can speak a little bit more to how many people have started to do it. But I know we've gotten some inquiries already, which is great. So we're excited to see where that goes. Usually the life cycles and the hatching and stuff does happen in the spring. As far as summer camps, I think that's on our next future list. So Kris and I are working on that, but stay tuned for that. We'll be excited to see where that ends up.
For all the people out there who feel overwhelmed by all the suffering in the world, what encouragement would you offer from your experiences at Chi 38 about the impact of a small, compassionate action? And how have you seen those small actions add up?
So my answer is Chi 38 wouldn't exist without that. I know Kris is a little modest, but I do want to say, the fact that someone sees this and makes it their life calling is phenomenal. That's one person who now owns an entire animal sanctuary. I wouldn't be here doing this work if she hadn't done that. So the fact that one person can have that impact, and then, she and I can come together and ripple out and have more of that impact. It really just takes one teacher to be like, hey, I'm interested in this. It takes one student to say, hey, I wonder if there's a way we can do this that's not live chickens, and those people are, hopefully empowered to speak up a little bit more as these things become a little bit more normalized.
How about you, Kris?
Well, Elizabeth had an amazing answer for that. And I will just add that along the lines of our Hatching Kindness project, just like Liz said, small choices made by, one school can have potentially huge impact. All of the children, if they learn to make compassionate decision-making skills and using empathy, then I think that can be carried on. And I mean, countless lives could be saved just by that one person that uses something like this. I was just you had asked about if people had requested the project yet, and we are getting in more requests every week. Another thing that's great about it too is we are going to be partnering with sanctuaries across the country to incorporate live feeds. Like we call ours Chicken TV. So the kids who are learning with this project, they'll be able to, if the teacher wants to, they can check in on their flock that they're observing. So it'll kind of tie in to a flock at the sanctuary, and you can see that, they're acting on their instincts, their flock behavior, normal chicken behavior. Not just because once the chicks hatch, that's the fun part. And then the lesson ends at school. Nobody gets to see the adult chickens and how they interact with each other and so on. We're also going to tie in local field trips. So if somebody uses this project in elementary school, then there's an option to visit your local animal sanctuary to come actually see the chicks, or not the chicks, but the chickens and the chicken flocks live. So we have that option here for local schools. They can arrange for their class to come out and take a field trip here, that kind of thing. So that's another thing that we're working on with other sanctuaries. So we hope to build that as well.
It's such an important way to go to, connect with other sanctuaries and build a coalition like that. Did I hear this right? Flock TV? Is that what your channel is called?
We call it Chicken TV. Because
Chicken TV?
Chicken TV. Yeah.
Okay. Is it available?
It's just a whole little world, that they're in, and they're busy. So it's like there's no commercials. Anyway,
how do we access that? How does
that is streamed from here. So when you order the Hatching Kindness Project, we've teamed up with Animal Learn, like Liz said, in the Science Bank, and they have the chick hatching models and the posters. You'll get that. You'll also get a link to download Elizabeth's curriculum. It's a full curriculum, and then you'll also get that link to check in on the chickens. So, yeah.
I love how that is so interactive. That's great.
Yeah, that was the idea, because the original the project is fun because it is interactive, but you can't have fun at the expense of someone else's life. So we wanted to make sure that it was still fun and still engaging, and there were a lot of different ways that they can interact, and whether it's a book or an interactive model or watching Chicken TV, we really wanted to make sure that it was something that the kids would like.
That's fantastic. Well, I have really enjoyed this conversation today. I appreciate that you're actually out there in the wind, Kris, doing the hard work. And I really appreciate what you bring, Elizabeth, with your curriculum and this fantastic program that you put together. I'm hoping that you can tell us how we all can order it and how we can all find you and how we can help you.
Probably the easiest way you can get all of the links are on Shy 38's website, which is shy38.org.
Okay. Are there any final words that you'd like to leave us with?
I think it's just reiterating that one person can make a difference, and the more people that adapt it, the more normalized it becomes. So, taking a chance, putting yourself out there, trying this curriculum, trying something different can have that ripple effect that, can impact so many different people and animals' lives.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a great conversation with Shy 38, and I'm Cheryl Moss. If you have enjoyed today's conversation, please like and subscribe so that we can create a better life for animals.
Thank you for joining us on the Better Life for Animals podcast. Together, we can create a world where all beings are treated with dignity, respect, and care. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening. It helps us reach more people and spread awareness about the incredible work happening in animal sanctuaries. You can also share this episode with friends and fellow advocates to keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep speaking up, taking action, and making a difference for the animals.